My fiancée wanted a break to reconnect with her ex, so I gave her more than she bargained for. Hi all. My name is Ethan and I'm sharing my story because, frankly, it still surprises me that my life has taken such an unexpected turn. At 27, I was certain I'd found my forever in Haley, my fiancée, whom I'd been with for 4 incredible years. Everything about us felt effortless, natural, and right until suddenly it didn't. Haley and I met through mutual friends during a casual summer barbecue. I vividly recall seeing her across the backyard, her laughter ringing out above the chatter and music. Her laughter was contagious, brightening the entire atmosphere, her confidence utterly captivating, and her blunt honesty surprisingly refreshing. I'd dated before, yet no one connected with me quite like she did. From our first conversation, it felt as though we'd known each other forever. We quickly became inseparable, spending weekends exploring the city, discovering hidden cafes, and enjoying endless conversations about everything and nothing at all. After a year together, we took the next significant step and moved into a cozy little house in the suburbs. It wasn't extravagant by any means, but it was warm, comfortable, and most importantly, ours. We spent weekends gardening, decorating, and turning the house into a true reflection of our combined tastes. Life was good, peaceful, and full of quiet joy. We often talked about the future, our careers, marriage, traveling the world together, and eventually starting a family. Haley, a talented freelance illustrator, and I, a software engineer, both enjoyed stable careers that offered flexibility, comfort, and a good work-life balance. After several years, it felt entirely natural to propose. I planned my proposal carefully yet simply. It was intimate and heartfelt, just the two of us sharing a homemade dinner. Haley's enthusiastic yes echoed through the room, filling me with excitement, relief, and happiness. Plans quickly came together for our dream wedding, a small, romantic ceremony by a picturesque lake in autumn surrounded by family and our closest friends. Initially, Haley was deeply involved and thrilled about the wedding preparations. She eagerly shared Pinterest boards overflowing with creative ideas, discussed potential flower arrangements in detail, and talked endlessly about selecting her bridesmaids' dresses. She seemed genuinely ecstatic, and seeing her happiness intensified my joy. However, gradually, something began to shift. Her enthusiasm faded noticeably, and she became increasingly distant, indecisive, and disengaged whenever the wedding came up in conversation. Whenever I'd ask about her apparent lack of interest, she'd quickly brush it off with a dismissive "there's plenty of time." At first, I tried not to worry, attributing her withdrawal to wedding-related stress or perhaps an increased workload. But deep down, an uneasy feeling started growing within me. It wasn't long before I began noticing subtle yet troubling changes. Haley grew secretive, frequently glancing at her phone with a guarded, sly smile crossing her face as she texted someone unknown. She frequently canceled our plans at the last minute, offering vague excuses that progressively felt more suspicious. One evening, we went out with friends, hoping for a relaxing night. Yet, a simple party game turned unexpectedly revealing. Someone casually asked the group, if you could revisit one past relationship, who would it be? Without hesitation, Haley immediately answered, probably Tyler. Tyler was her college boyfriend, the guy who repeatedly cheated on her, causing significant emotional pain. The silence following her statement was deafening, awkwardness spreading through the room like wildfire, quickly followed by Haley's forced, awkward laughter as she attempted to dismiss her response as merely a joke. Later that night, I confronted her privately, deeply hurt and utterly confused. Why Tyler? I asked quietly but firmly. Haley laughed nervously, avoiding my eyes completely. Oh, it was just a stupid game, Ethan. You're overthinking it. But I couldn't let it go so easily. Her casual dismissal didn't sit right with me. From that moment onward, our relationship spiraled rapidly. Haley's evasiveness intensified, our emotional connection weakened dramatically, and the tension in our home grew nearly unbearable. Despite this mounting turmoil, nothing could prepare me for the shocking revelation that awaited me one fateful Friday evening when Haley finally admitted the truth she'd been desperately hiding from me. After that troubling game night, our interactions became increasingly strained. Haley's attempts to act normal felt forced and hollow. Every conversation seemed to end in awkward silence, every interaction loaded with unspoken tension. Our home, once warm and welcoming, had become cold and unsettling. Days passed slowly, each one filled with silent suspicions and painful thoughts. I found myself noticing small details I had previously overlooked, how often Haley kept her phone face down, her growing irritation whenever I asked about her day, and her constant excuses to step away from our shared activities. It felt like living with a stranger. One particular Friday evening, everything finally came to a head. I'd spent the day at work, distracted and anxious, unable to shake off the feeling that something was seriously wrong. Returning home that evening, I found Haley sitting nervously on the couch, clearly waiting for me. The tension in the room was palpable. We need to talk, she said softly, avoiding eye contact. My heart sank instantly, recognizing the seriousness in her tone. I sat down slowly, bracing myself for what was coming next. "What's going on, Haley?" I asked quietly, my voice strained but steady. She took a deep breath, visibly steeling herself. "Ethan, I haven't been honest with you lately," she began hesitantly. "Tyler reached out to me a few weeks ago and we've been talking. At first, it was just catching up, but then old feelings started resurfacing." My chest tightened painfully, anger and hurt swirling inside me. "Old feelings? For Tyler? The guy who repeatedly broke your heart?" Haley nodded slowly, tears beginning to form in her eyes. "I know it doesn't make sense, Ethan, but talking to him made me realize there might still be something there. I don't know what exactly, but I need to figure it out." I struggled to process her words, disbelief washing over me. "What exactly are you asking for, Haley?" "I think we should take a break," she replied cautiously. "I need space to explore these feelings and make sure I'm making the right decision." The reality of her request hit me hard. My voice shook with anger and sadness. "You're seriously suggesting that I stand by while you reconnect with your ex?" "I'm sorry, Ethan," she whispered, finally meeting my gaze. "I never meant to hurt you. But if I don't do this, I'll always wonder." I stood abruptly, pacing the room, my emotions spiraling out of control. Finally, turning back to her, I spoke clearly, my voice filled with resolve. "If you're considering choosing between us, then maybe we're not as solid as I thought. I won't stay here and wait while you figure this out." Haley looked down, nodding silently, understanding the gravity of my words. Without another word, I packed a small bag and left, feeling as though the life I'd built had shattered in an instant. Walking away from the home we'd shared, I felt numb. Each step away from our front door felt surreal, as though I was watching my life unfold from afar. The familiar sights of our neighborhood blurred into an indistinguishable haze, and the future I'd imagined with Haley seemed to evaporate into thin air, replaced by uncertainty, confusion, and a deep sense of loss. My mind replayed our recent conversations over and over, searching desperately for signs, moments where things might have turned differently or where I could have intervened to stop the unraveling. I drove aimlessly for hours, the streets unfamiliar despite having traveled them countless times before. Every street lamp, every passing building seemed foreign, reflecting the emotional turmoil that churned inside me. My thoughts raced uncontrollably, each memory of Haley feeling both painfully precious and bitterly tainted by the fresh wounds of betrayal. Eventually, physically and emotionally exhausted, I found myself parked outside my best friend Mark's apartment building without realizing I'd driven there. Dragging myself out of the car and up to his apartment door, I hesitated momentarily before knocking. Mark answered quickly, his initial surprise quickly replaced by concern as he took in my disheveled and clearly distressed appearance. "Ethan, what happened?" he asked gently, guiding me inside without waiting for an explanation. He motioned me toward the couch, disappearing briefly into the kitchen before returning with a cold drink. As I began to recount the painful details of Haley's revelation, Mark listened patiently, his calm presence offering a small measure of comfort amid my emotional chaos. The weight of everything I had bottled up spilled out, my confusion, my frustration, my profound sense of betrayal. "Ethan, I can't believe she'd put you through this," Mark said gently, handing me a drink. His voice carried genuine sympathy and concern. "You deserve better than someone unsure about being with you. You've always been devoted and you shouldn't doubt your worth." "I know," I muttered quietly, gripping the cold glass tightly. "But I still can't wrap my head around why she'd even consider giving Tyler another chance. Especially after how much pain he caused her before. What does he have that makes her doubt everything we built together?" Mark sighed thoughtfully, leaning back on the sofa. "People often cling to unresolved pasts, Ethan. Maybe Haley never fully healed from Tyler's betrayal. But that isn't on you. It's entirely her responsibility to figure that out." We spent hours dissecting every aspect of my relationship with Haley, examining events and interactions for signs I'd overlooked. Mark's steady, reassuring perspective provided much-needed grounding, continuously reminding me that Haley's choices were her own, independent of my actions or shortcomings. Yet, despite his comforting words, self-doubt crept persistently into my thoughts. Questions haunted me repeatedly. Had I missed important signs? Could I have done something differently to prevent this? The following days blended into an exhausting blur filled with emotional turmoil and restless sleep. Haley and I exchanged short, tense messages, each interaction driving the painful reality deeper. She repeatedly requested more time to process her feelings, but her uncertainty only fueled my pain, frustration, and a growing sense of helplessness. I felt trapped in emotional limbo, suspended in a state neither fully broken nor whole. Finally, after days of deep and painful reflection, I reached a decision. The choice wasn't easy, but deep down, I knew it was necessary for my emotional well-being and sense of self-respect. With a heavy yet resolute heart, I sent Haley a message asking to meet and clearly discuss our future. Despite the sadness enveloping me, beneath the grief was a newfound clarity and determination. Whatever came next, I realized it was crucial to face it directly, reclaiming both my sense of self-worth and my emotional peace. The day Haley agreed to meet, anxiety surged through me relentlessly. Sleep had evaded me for nights, my mind spinning endlessly over the conversation we were about to have. Each scenario I imagined only increased my apprehension. Despite this, I knew deep within that it was crucial to confront this situation head-on. We decided to meet at a small cafe we had once frequented during happier times, a neutral ground intended to keep emotions from escalating too dramatically. Arriving first, I chose a quiet corner table, nervously sipping coffee and rehearsing what I wanted to say. My heart pounded erratically when Haley walked in, her familiar presence instantly igniting a mix of longing, sadness, and resentment. She sat across from me, visibly nervous but composed. For a moment, neither of us spoke, the silence between us charged and painful. Finally, Haley broke the silence, her voice trembling slightly. "Ethan, thank you for agreeing to meet," she began cautiously. "I want you to know that I've done a lot of thinking." I took a deep breath, steadying myself. "And, what conclusion did you reach?" She looked down briefly, gathering her thoughts. "Talking to Tyler made me realize that the past is exactly that, the past. The idea of reconnecting felt more exciting in theory than in reality. I know I hurt you deeply by entertaining it at all, and I'm truly sorry." Relief mingled with pain at her words. "Haley, it's not just about Tyler. It's about trust and respect," I said, my voice firm yet gentle. "The fact you even considered this showed me we're not as solid as I believed." She nodded sadly, eyes brimming with tears. "You're right, Ethan. It wasn't fair to you. But going through this made me see how much I value what we have. If you'll let me, I'd like to rebuild that trust." A wave of conflicting emotions washed over me. Part of me desperately wanted to believe her and mend what we had, while another part was wary, fearful of being hurt again. I considered my words carefully before responding. "Trust isn't something easily rebuilt, Haley," I said slowly. "I need time to decide if it's even possible. I deserve someone certain about me, who would never question whether they want to be with me." She reached across the table hesitantly, her voice soft but resolute. "I understand, Ethan. Take all the time you need. But please know that losing you would be the biggest regret of my life." Leaving the cafe, I felt a strange mix of sadness and empowerment. While uncertain of our future, I recognized my strength and self-worth more clearly than ever before. Whatever decision I ultimately made, I knew it would come from a place of clarity, dignity, and self-respect. The days following our conversation at the cafe were some of the most challenging I'd ever faced. My mind constantly cycled between memories of happier times with Haley and the deep wound her actions had caused. Each moment was filled with an internal struggle, weighing my lingering affection against the stark reality of her betrayal. Family and friends offered differing advice. Some urged reconciliation, emphasizing the value of forgiveness and second chances. Others cautioned against it, reminding me of the risk of future heartbreak. Their voices became a background hum as I navigated my tangled feelings, striving desperately to find clarity amidst emotional chaos. One evening, burdened by relentless thoughts, I decided to take a walk to clear my head. The streets were quiet, bathed in the gentle glow of streetlights, and each familiar landmark seemed to trigger another memory of Haley. The park where we'd shared numerous picnics, the coffee shop that witnessed countless weekend breakfasts, each place was a vivid reminder of the life we had planned together. Yet, as I walked, a new realization emerged clearly through the pain. Love, I understood deeply, required mutual respect and unwavering trust, two things that Haley had shaken profoundly. Could I truly ever trust her again? Would my heart ever stop wondering if I was simply her fallback option? Returning home that night, I sat alone in silence, finally acknowledging a difficult truth. For my own emotional health and future happiness, I needed to prioritize myself above the uncertain possibility of restoring our relationship. It wasn't easy to admit, but deep down I knew it was the right choice. Resolved yet heavy-hearted, I reached out to Haley, arranging to meet once more. Although I knew the conversation ahead would be emotionally difficult, a quiet strength filled me, rooted in the confidence that this decision came from a place of self-respect and clarity. The day of our final meeting arrived, and despite my earlier resolve, anxiety gripped me fiercely. Every second leading up to our conversation was filled with a bittersweet mix of longing and determination. I spent hours rehearsing what I needed to say, yet uncertainty lingered. Could I really express my feelings clearly without letting emotions overwhelm me? We met in a neutral place again, this time choosing a quiet spot by the river. Haley was already there, looking subdued and reflective. As I approached, our eyes met, and for a fleeting moment, familiar warmth passed between us. However, it quickly dissipated, replaced by the gravity of our reality. Haley began softly, "Ethan, I've been dreading this conversation, but I understand why it's necessary. Whatever decision you've made, I want you to know I respect it." I nodded slowly, taking a deep breath before speaking. "Haley, these past weeks have been incredibly tough. I've thought endlessly about us, our history, and everything we've shared. But the more I reflect, the clearer it becomes that trust and respect are foundational, and those have been severely damaged." She listened intently, sadness evident in her eyes. I continued, "I can't rebuild a relationship on uncertainty. I deserve someone certain about me, who values and respects me completely. Right now, I need to prioritize myself, heal, and find stability without doubts constantly hanging over me." Haley looked away briefly, absorbing my words. "I understand," she finally whispered, her voice thick with emotion. "I can't expect you to just forget what's happened. You deserve happiness, Ethan, and I'm sorry I jeopardized that." We sat in silence for several moments, absorbing the weight of our shared past and the reality of our present. Eventually, I spoke again, this time with gentle finality. "I genuinely wish you the best, Haley. Despite everything, I want happiness for you too." We parted ways quietly, each heading in separate directions, physically and emotionally. Walking away from Haley was profoundly painful, yet strangely liberating. I felt a profound sense of closure, knowing I'd made the difficult but necessary choice to respect myself and safeguard my emotional future. The journey ahead would be challenging, but for the first time in weeks, I felt true hope. In the weeks following our final conversation by the river, life gradually began to regain clarity and stability. Initially, the silence and absence were difficult, each day carrying a reminder of what had been lost. However, with time, the pain slowly gave way to a newfound sense of self-awareness and inner peace. I immersed myself in activities I'd neglected during my relationship, reconnecting with old hobbies, friendships, and passions. My days were filled with long walks, visits to art galleries, and quiet evenings spent reading, each activity a step towards reclaiming my sense of identity. Friends and family became my greatest support, reminding me that healing was possible and encouraging me to embrace life's possibilities. Occasionally, memories of Haley surfaced, bringing waves of nostalgia mixed with sadness. Yet, these moments became less frequent and intense, allowing space for acceptance and forgiveness, not only towards Haley but also myself. I came to understand that our separation was less about blame and more about personal growth and respect for what each of us truly needed. Over time, I found joy in small, everyday moments again. My heart, once burdened by sorrow and confusion, began to feel lighter. Each new experience reinforced the understanding that endings could also be beginnings, leading toward unexpected paths filled with potential and promise. One evening, sitting alone by the same river where Haley and I had our final conversation, I realized how far I'd come. The water's gentle flow mirrored my journey, sometimes turbulent, but ultimately steady and forward-moving. The pain of our breakup had given me a profound lesson in self-respect, resilience, and the importance of honoring my emotional well-being. Looking ahead, I felt a deep, authentic sense of optimism. Life would undoubtedly bring more challenges, but I now knew my strength and capacity to face them head-on. With gratitude for the past, peace in the present, and hope for the future, I stepped forward, ready to embrace whatever new adventures awaited me. Hope you enjoyed this story as much as I do. Help this small channel grow by hitting that like button, subscribing, and sharing with your friends. Every bit of support means the world. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next one.